hello, and happy Tuesday to you. How are you? Are you having a good week? Because I'm really excited to be here with all of you. I think I feel like I'm excited to be with you every day, but especially today because it's Tuesday. I don't know why. Probably because I have some incredible guests that are coming on in just a moment. But before we get to them, let's talk about the financial markets because I have a feeling this is what you came for. Now, those of you who tuned in earlier today, I was on Digital Trends this morning and I went to Fox Business. Thank you so much for all of you for tuning in. We always love seeing you because we are sharing financial news that you can use. Now, today, the Dow closed down 131 points. The Nasdaq, unfortunately, down 32 points as well, as we see more information coming out about the next stimulus package, or lack of, if you will, right? So Democrats and Republicans continue to battle it out, hopefully to give you some indication of a stimulus check coming to your household sooner rather than later. Certainly the presidential debates are a big topic that we're going to be seeing later this evening. But what we really want to know is, first off, when we're going to be beyond this pandemic, how we're going to get there, and if you're going to get check or funds in your account for not only yourself, possibly your business, possibly your dependents as well, and maybe some more additional support for our much needed travel industry, airlines in particular. Today, we actually saw some continuous troubles in the area of travel. United Airlines and American Airlines today down more than 4%, Delta Airlines down more than 2%. Also, across the board in cruise lines, the cruise world continues to suffer. I'm almost thinking like hemorrhage is a better word, but Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, all down, all sadness there. But again, interesting enough, financial firms continue to say that they're quite bullish. In fact, they feel that there are actually going to be better returns in the short term and perhaps long term. We're always optimistic long term, but short term, we continue to hear that financial firms are feeling quite bullish. In fact, JP Morgan Chase came out and said that they expect the S&P to rise by another 10%. So we'll see. But here's what I will say. This is something that I want to share with you. The U.S. Travel Association reported that since the beginning of March, because of the beautiful COVID-19 pandemic, or definitely not beautiful, but you know what I mean, the travel industry has suffered more than a $380 billion loss in that industry, which also you might say, well, that's horrible, but what else? But also because that amount of money or revenue, a good portion of that would go to taxes too. So that also impacts the U.S. government in terms of taxes and what's been brought in. So today, on this very positive note, of course not positive, but there are definitely some positives and silver linings, because today I have the two absolute top guns at Miles to Memories here with me. And I'm pleased to say that these two gentlemen not only are definitely leaders in the Travel Points Miles space, but also two very good friends of mine. So I would love to introduce, first off, let's bring on Shawn Coomer, founder of Miles to Memory. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. So can you share with us where you're joining us from?
From Las Vegas, Nevada.
Well, Las Vegas, pretty hot. And I certainly know a big travel town. So it'll be fun and interesting to hear your take on what's going on. And let's bring in, I joke because I call him Mr. Unpersonality, because this gentleman really actually explodes with personality. Mr. Mark Ostermann, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good that you're here.
I was listening really closely to your opening, and I didn't hear the stock tip that's going to make me a millionaire. So I think we got to write that in next time.
Yeah, I think we ought to, right? I mean, I feel like maybe you should call me and we could talk about that sometime. I joke with this, and we'll have to start with this. These two gentlemen obviously are leaders in the travel points, credit card, all things greatness space. This is actually an area that I love. Travel, some people call it travel hacking. It sounds kind of like gritty that way. Maybe that's to make it cool, but I love it because it's really a way to make memories, that's why I love the name of your company, makes memories and spend time with the people that we love, doing the things that we love, which is travel, but being really smart about it and making sure that our financial picture stays nice and solid, which, talking my lingo here, we want to give you everything. And if you haven't already, these are two really top guns in this space that you'll want to follow. So let's talk about this. Obviously, points and miles really well. I want to start with you, Shawn. How has the pandemic impacted what you do, what you share with your readers and in your space? What have you seen?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was very crazy because there wasn't any travel, and kind of the focus of our site was all about teaching people how to earn miles so that they could really turn them into the travel. And that was such a big focus on that. And then everybody was sort of scrambling, and then we had to find, topics that were relevant within our wheelhouse. And so we started talking about how to earn more and how to use those to miles and points to benefit people's lives now that they're not traveling. And so that was sort of the focus on, how now that we're not traveling, how are we still going to use credit cards, miles and points to benefit our lives in the same way that they did before when we did travel and use them for vacations and stuff like that.
I know it certainly has been a big shift, right, Shawn? I mean, I know that, I subscribe to your newsletter. I know there's a lot of travel newsletters that come out to educate those of us who are passionate about traveling with our family and friends, of using points miles in a really smart way. And I remember initially some of the emails that came from some of you said, we are really sensitive to the fact that many of us aren't traveling, we don't feel comfortable, and really finding ways to continue to add value for us. And I love that of taking that initiative. Mark, one thing that we've seen a lot of is, a lot of people are sort of changing the way that they're using their credit cards and points, right? Like I know, like Shawn was saying, a lot of people use it for travel, but in your case, and some of the things that you've talked to me about is using them in different ways, right? Because our spending has shifted as well, right? And you make sure to unmute yourself. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I think a lot of people have started to shift more towards cashback, and it's been interesting to see Chase has come out with a pay yourself back feature where you can cash in your Ultimate Rewards points, which we usually use for travel at staying at Hyatt or for United flights, stuff like that. And they opened up this new option where you can cash in your points at 1.5 cents a piece if you have the Sapphire Reserve, 1.25 cents a piece if you have the Preferred. And you can use that towards like groceries, Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that. So a lot of people, their grocery bills are higher than ever. They weren't going out to eat as much. So a lot of people have taken advantage of that because that's usually close to what you would get for travel. And they've kind of secured that cash flow for, if things continue to be bad or if they lose their job or they could use it in the future for travel because there's going to be a lot of deals coming out of the pandemic. I mean, you're already seeing it with flights and everything. So it's been an interesting shift. Before it was cash was terrible. You don't want to do anything with cash, use miles for travel. And now we've seen a big shift in the whole travel space of cashing out points and using it that way. So absolutely. I don't know if you started doing it at all or not yet.
Okay, you're putting me on the spot, but I will tell you, I read this on Miles and Memories, and this is one of, and I know for a fact that it ends tomorrow because it's September 30th is the deadline where, so I have accumulated quite a bit of travel points thanks to these gentlemen, and so I've been using them to pay for my grocery spend for the last 3 months. I'm excited because the last 3 months, I basically will have spent almost nothing on groceries because I use my points to wash them away. So that was pretty nice. And it ends tomorrow. So for those of you who haven't,
they just extended it. So it's going to be until April of next year.
Was this on Miles and Memories? Because I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, it just happened yesterday. So.
Oh, very cool. Well, I thought we were friends, Mark. I thought I would get a text.
I'm texting you right now. Let me find my phone.
He's holding. Speaking of which, Shawn, one thing I know is you are a true, I guess maybe Disneyland, Disney World fan, if you will. I heard through the grapevine that you've actually done the tour, the Disney tour, a few times around. Can you talk a little bit about that? And, where you see, I mean, I hear that, Disney World's open in Florida, but what does that sort of look like to you?
Yeah, I've been to every Disney park in the world several times, and I guess the biggest tour that we did was last year with my 4-year-old daughter and my wife. We did all 6 Disney resorts, all 12 parks in 6 weeks. So we did Shanghai, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Anaheim, Orlando, and Paris. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, this year happened, and I haven't been to Disney at all since they reopened. But in Florida, they've reopened pretty well. I mean, the parks there have been open for a few months, and they haven't had any outbreaks tied to them. And they have very strict requirements as far as wearing masks and distancing. And Disney's even gone over and above by installing plexiglass in the queues in certain areas. So they've done their best to kind of keep people safe there. Although now it seems like it's getting busier, and maybe they're relaxing the restrictions. And Disneyland, unfortunately, as you know, is still closed all these months later. So hopefully Disneyland can reopen soon. But yeah, I love Disney, and I love traveling, obviously. So the two kind of go really well together.
So Shawn, have you gone to Disney World since the pandemic?
I haven't. My last trip to Disney World was in January, so it was just before the pandemic. Although I have a podcast where we talk about Disney, and we've talked about it, and I've talked to people who have been there, and people say they feel fairly comfortable. I was actually at Disneyland on March 8th, so just about a week before it closed down, and I was well aware of everything, and that was sort of a crazy experience because nobody seemed to care about anything, and then I was, kind of paranoid about it. But yeah, it seems like the parks have come back, not only Disney, but Universal and the regional theme parks. A lot of them have been open all summer, and they've found ways, it looks like, to bring guests back in to have fun in a safe way. And that's really, really fun and good. And hopefully Disneyland and some of the West Coast parks can open up soon and do the same thing.
Well, I will tell you, maybe this is something I can share, Mark, since I sort of know this part. So I do know here in Orange County, which is, I'm about 15 minutes from Disneyland, and we are in phase, I think we're in phase, we're in phase red, which is, I think, that as soon as we get to phase orange, from what I understand, then Disneyland can open. And I think there was speculation that we would reach phase orange by Tuesday, because the cases have been decreasing here in Orange County. But we'll see. I'll let you know if I hear that. I guess maybe I'll even text you, let you know that.
You've been a Disneyland pass holder for a few years, haven't you?
I had, yeah, for a while. I certainly did, but the prices just got so high, and I spoke to my husband about this. I was like, I just can't see how they can keep raising these Disney annual passes to such high levels that if we got priced out, how many people still can make that sort of investment? But who knows what'll happen after the pandemic? I imagine that it'll probably only boost sales more, just because people have been cooped up for so long that they just like. I know myself personally, a lot of my clients, and as well as I know Mark and all of you, you all have like a lot of points and miles now saved up just because of what you know. I mean, can you imagine the bookings after this? I think that although how difficult the travel industry is, I think once we feel safe, it's going to go bananas. I already started booking hotels for next year, because I just want to hold those dates. I'm seeing smiles because I'm guessing, Shawn, you're doing the same?
Yeah, I'm definitely, I have my brain is working overdrive trying to figure out where I can go next year. And the only thing about me is it's very emotional for me, so I don't like to cancel stuff. So I've been holding off a little bit in that I don't want to get myself invested for a trip that is not going to happen. So that's always a consideration for me. Back to the Disney thing and the cost too, I wanted to say that when we did that around the world trip with my daughter and my wife, that was all done through travel hacking, and the tickets, the flights, the hotels were all either discounted and in many cases free, including annual passes on both coasts. So there is on the website, not to make this about Disney, but there is an article about that. So it does tie in to whether you want to just travel with your family, or you want to, go on a big international trip, or just go down the street. There's ways that these miles and points help. And in my case, it was Disney because, as you said, the prices for tickets and everything are crazy now, but thankfully there are some ways to save money on the things you love, like Disney. without having to pay, all that money out of pocket.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Shawn. And so actually, Shawn, I know you have some great resources for us, for those of us who love to take our families to Disney. And I've been definitely a benefactor at that. So we're going to make sure to share all those resources with you at the end of this show. For sure. Talk about travel right now. We know that Hawaii is opening to visitors on October 15th. What's really interesting about that, the news came out that Hawaii, United Airlines out of San Francisco is saying that they're going to offer a 15-minute test for COVID. It's going to cost like $350, or you can do a mail-in test. It's going to be like $80 or $90 per person too, on top of the ticket fare. That seems like a lot for one thing. And certainly it's a good sign, because perhaps this will be the trend that'll sort of trickle down to more travel opportunities. What are your thoughts on that, Mark? What do you think about sort of paying for testing, and will that get people to get more comfortable flying? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the cost is going to be prohibitive. Like you said, if you have a family of 4 or 5, you're talking, over $1,000, close to $1,500 if you're, with 4 people. So that's a lot of money. And then you're throwing in hotels in Hawaii and the flight to Hawaii. It's not going to be cheap. So in one aspect, it's nice to have it open up where people can go if they want to, because before you had to quarantine at the resort for 14 days, and most people can't take that type of time off. So I like it, but I just don't know how many people are going to pay for it. I guess I know you can do like the test outside of United, but there's such time frames. Like you have to have it. It has to be within 3 days or something like that before you fly, and turnaround times are very sporadic. So it's tough to gauge. So I don't know how well it's going to do. I mean, it's nice to have the option, but I don't see that it being that big of a push. Are you getting on a flight to Hawaii because of it? I know you love Hawaii.
We love Hawaii, but you know what? I think we'll wait. I think we'll wait for sure. The other big area that's a big travel destination, internationally popular, is Las Vegas, right? It's not just a domestic hub, but it's also somewhere many people from across the globe come to. And in fact, I heard one of my clients said this. They said, it's interesting, when I have family members from Europe come in and I brought them to Los Angeles, they're like, this is the United States. And then when I brought them to Las Vegas, like, this is the United States that they were imagining, right? They thought Los Angeles looked kind of grungy, but then they saw Las Vegas. It's like, oh, this is what we expect. This is like paradise. So Shawn, obviously this is your backyard. Talk to me about travel in Vegas. Where is it now? What does it look like now? And what's sort of your projection on how long it's going to take to be a little bit more back to normal?
Yeah, Vegas is still Vegas, which is really nice. Even though things are a little bit different, the city has done its best to try to maintain that kind of uniqueness that people love. But the casinos were closed from March till June, and then they reopened in early June. And we saw those numbers were down 70% year over year this June compared to last. And then in July, the numbers were down 61%. So we are trending in the right direction, but we still have capacity controls and bans on large kind of gatherings. Even today, the governor's speaking, so where he's expected to raise the limit from like 50 to 250 people. And so the news is good. The cases have been under control. As far as the Vegas experience, Mark, I think, is coming out in a few weeks, which is going to be fun to give him a shot to kind of experience it. But there are masks required everywhere, but it's still a good time. People are still having fun. Some of the restaurants are closed. Some of the experiences are closed, like the shows and stuff like that. But the city really has kind of gotten into a groove and kind of gotten used to the new health and safety requirements. And most of the casinos on the Strip are now open. By about a week from now, pretty much every major casino on the Strip will be open. And that's great, because when the Strip reopened in June, about half the properties were still closed. And so over time, we're getting better, and a recovery does seem like it's happening. Although, as you know, with the way travel is and everything else, and especially because Vegas relies so heavily on conferences, especially to fill those rooms midweek, it's going to be a little bit of time, probably a year or more, before Vegas gets even close to where it was before. Probably a few years, actually.
Yeah, I think that's true, because like usually right now, this time of the year, I'd be attending the Adobe Summit, which in Las Vegas is like one of the largest conferences. In fact, I remember attending it last year, and literally every single hotel on the strip was part of the Adobe Summit. And, it's like so many of these big conferences that I usually speak at or attend at, I think almost every single one is completely on hold or postponed until at least the end of 2021. And many of them go to Vegas. So that, I think, Mark, and the other thing, Mark, I wanted to ask you is the idea of like international travel. I know, so now I know you're going to Las Vegas 2 weeks. That's really cool, Mark. Talk to me about, I know you have a love for, some pretty fun little brewery cities out in Europe and everything else. What do you guys think about international travel? I start with Mark. I definitely want to go to Shawn on this. International travel has been a lot of talk. Like, in fact, I have a family, like, for example, I have a lot of family in Taiwan, and they're saying, Winnie, don't come. Even if you could come in quarantine, we don't recommend you come because I have a good friend that lives in Switzerland. She says the same thing. Don't come right now because even if we let you come, there's going to be a lot of discrimination. People are like, oh, they find out you're from the United States, or like, they're going to be very uncomfortable around you. What do you think this will look like? Do you think that's going to take longer for international travel to get back to normal? Or do you think that'll be sooner?
I think it will take longer than domestic travel, which domestic travel is already starting to pick up somewhat. And I'll be getting on a plane in a couple weeks. So that'll be the first time since the pandemic, which I know a lot of people that have been flying quite a bit. So I think they're more comfortable with that. International, just with the border closings and in the cases that the United States has, I think it's going to be a while, maybe until after there's a vaccine before they start to let in. Ian, who writes for our site on Miles to Memories, he recently went to Turkey, just to visit because they're open and he had a good experience. So I think depending on the country and how accepting they are, you could definitely make an international trip, but a lot of the places that you want to go are closed off to us right now, and there's no telling how long that's going to be. I mean, Canada is right across the river from me, and I can't even enter there, so it's going to be tough. I mean, I would say I'm hopeful like next summer things start to open up, so I can start to get those trips back that I lost. But there's no way to know right now. But I think it will take a while for sure.
I think you're right. Well, you know what? I would love to learn this. And since I have you both in the hot seat, I don't always get to do this. I want to ask you, Shawn, this is something I would love to hear. I would love to hear the backstory of Miles to Memories. I actually don't know this. So, Shawn, what's the motivation and your inspiration to creating this company? And so, like, I'm guessing you didn't just wake up one day and say, I should create MTM. Sounds great.
Well, actually, funny enough, the name, I actually did wake up and do that, but I'll get to that in a second.
You're doing in a dream.
But it actually all started. I started blogging in 2007. I was working in mortgage. I was a loan officer, and it was a good job, making good money, high stress. And I had a talk with a coworker who had done a lot of extensive travel, and she kind of planted something in my head. And eventually that led to me talking to my wife and us selling everything and traveling around the world with our then 6-year-old son for a year and a half. And we traveled around and I blogged it, and it was called Family Around the World at that time. And then when I got back from that, I kind of went back into the corporate world and then left that job in 2012. And I wanted to keep all the content from the family stuff, but I wanted to talk more about miles and points because by that time I had learned how to utilize, credit card rewards and everything to travel for a lot cheaper. And so I was trying to think of a name. And finally, I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and Miles to Memories was in my mind. And then I went to like Google Domains to see if it was available, and it was. And that's what ultimately happened. And it's great because I think the travel experiences are just as important as the kind of information about earning the miles and points. And so that was always the goal and the balance. But yeah, essentially, this is just my passion for travel, my passion for life, and that's why I started it and have been doing this full time since basically 2013. And what a blessing that's been.
Yes, it is. Well, it's a blessing for us too, to be able to have access to the knowledge that comes out of both of you. Well, look at this. Breaking news just came out from CNBC. Disney just announced 28,000 layoffs are going to be occurring. Wow. craziness, sad times, especially during our live broadcast. Let me ask this. So one of our viewers today, who is one of my favorites, Jim from Chicago, has a question for you, Shawn. Do the casinos in Vegas have a limit capacity with pandemic in mind?
They do. The capacities are basically 50% right now. Even the hotels are at 50%. Although I have heard anecdotally that it's sort of more of a suggestion and they're not being required to do it. So I've heard on the weekends they've pushed occupancy even higher than that. And we've seen bigger crowds on the weekends, especially the past 2 weekends have been very, very crowded here. And it's not quite clear how these capacity restrictions are being enforced. But what you will see in every casino is at every entrance, they're going to have security guards making sure that you're following mask rules. Some casinos even do temperature checks as you walk in. And some other ones, they all actually are doing the temperature checks. Some of them are just more sly about it and they have the thermal cameras hidden and you never even know it. But yeah, so they are limiting the amount of people. They are encouraging, or they are making people follow the rules. And then they are also enforcing the rules when you're in there. So basically you have to have a mask unless you're eating or smoking. And even between sips or between drags of a cigarette, you still have to have your mask on. But other than that, and also every other machine is generally blocked off. So you can, you're not going to always be so close to people. Some of the casinos even have plexiglass at the tables. I was walked by a poker room the other day and they were playing at the Bellagio and they were playing poker with all the plexiglass in there. It didn't look like very much fun to me, but people seem to be enjoying it. So yeah, I feel like there are definitely ways that you will be able to space yourself out in Vegas casinos if that's what you want to do, for sure.
Okay. I feel like when I hear you talk about this, Shawn, I feel like those pictures that we're seeing with kids back in school, and then their little tables are surrounded by these plexiglass shields. And I think at some point you just sort of get used to it being in front of you, and you sort of lose track of that. Here's what I really want to know. I haven't been shy about this. So many of you know that Mr. Mark Ostermann is one of my best friends on the planet, okay? And he is so hilarious. What I'm curious about is learning how you and Shawn came together. There's got to be a backstory. And in fact, I'm going to let Mark, you tell the story, and Shawn can disagree or agree on this. How did you guys get to working together?
Yeah, so I'd been a follower of the website for a few years, and then he started a Facebook group. What was it, like 2015, something like that, 2016. So I joined that right away, and when it started to grow, you look for moderators, and I, put my hat in the ring for that, and he accepted it. And then as that grew, I kind of got to know him a little bit, and then he just put a thing out there for writers, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, even though I have no experience in this. He's like, do you have any writing samples? I'm like, I could probably dig something up from college for you, but but that's about as far back as I can go. And then the funny thing is, he does an interview. He has 30 people who apply for the job, and he does interviews with a couple of them. And our interview went about as poorly as it could have gone. And that was all Shawn's fault, to be honest. But he was out. He's big into reselling. So he was out on a reselling run. And at our scheduled time, he pulled into a McDonald's and was sitting in the lobby. And his webcam, it was your mic. I think his mic wasn't working on his computer and stuff. So he had to go sit in his car holding his phone up. And it was a really awkward interview while he's just sitting there on his phone in a McDonald's parking lot. But I guess I nailed it, even though it was a hot mess.
And now you get to make fun of him on air. How did that happen, Shawn?
Yeah.
When he set it up, she set it up good.
This is a match made in heaven. I've always been curious, Rick, about the same thing. In fact, I will say, Shawn, one of your followers or fans have said that I needed to definitely ask you about your, I was going to call it mugshot, but your photo.
Which is Rick as well. Rick's the one that asked about it.
Oh, my God. I don't have a recent face shot. So I use one from just a couple years ago. And I don't know. They think that it doesn't look like me, but that's okay. Because of this, I'll make sure I'm going to get a brand new headshot very soon.
Rick's comment was, what is that, from high school, Shawn?
Shawn just looks young. So I feel like it still works. No, Rick? Rick, I don't know if Rick thinks or not, but
that's right. He just likes to give me a hard time. That's fine.
I feel like this is something Mark has in common with Rick.
Yes. Yes.
All right, well, let's get to the meat of it. We still have a lot of questions coming on, and I know we're talking about this, and what we like to hear about, some of you probably are familiar with miles and points. I mean, even now, I'll talk to different people, and they'll ask me about this now and say, my hobby obviously is to really focus on points and miles. As a financial advisor, I geek about numbers anyway. It's been 20 plus years. I can read and sleep numbers all day long. But when it comes to be able to equate miles and points to travel experiences with my family, I love it. I can actually, text my friend and they're like, oh, where are you going? It could be a 7-day trip with my family of 5. And literally the only thing we come back with is the cost of meals. Everything else has been covered thanks to the top guns like miles to memories. So let's talk about this a little bit. If we could bring it down to the basics, just a tad, Mark, some of our viewers maybe aren't that active. Like I'm sure most of us aren't as active as the two of you are. If you were just to get started, what are some things that you think are best practices? Number one, we will say the number one rule is that you absolutely have to pay your credit cards in full, 100%. 100%. Like there's just, you never keep even one penny to the very next month. And if you're comfortable with that, then you can sort of embrace some of the strategies that these gentlemen and their crew share with us. But Mark, maybe we can start with that. Someone's brand new to it. What are some things that they should be thinking about if they want to, plan that next points, miles covered vacation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to pay attention to where your spending is. If you're spending a lot at restaurants and you don't cook a lot, you want to focus on a card that gets you a good bonus on restaurant spend. Or if it's the opposite and you spend a lot at the grocery store, you want to get something that gives you a good return on that spend as well. So kind of look at, your past 12 months, what your purchases are, and then find a card that fits that. I would say the biggest mistake people make is they just get kind of like attached to a certain program or a company. Like a Disney card is a huge card out there that a lot of people have, and they think it's great because when they go to Disney, oh, I saved up this $100 or $200 from all the spending I did. But in reality, that you're only getting 1% back on that card for most purchases, and that's locked into only using on Disney stuff. If you got like a city double cash where you get 2% cash back on everything, you're already doing twice as good, and you can turn around and use that money at Disney. So I would say set your baseline at 2%. If you're not getting 2% back, look at that type of card, like a double cash. Capital One Venture, it has a 2% travel card. It's got a 100,000 point sign up bonus right now, which is a pretty huge bonus, which will get you $1,000 in travel. So that's the other big thing is a lot of people, when they start out, they grow their stash of points through welcome offers and sign up bonuses. When you sign up for a new card, you usually get a huge amount of points if you spend like $3,000-$4,000 within 3 months. So that's something that you want to check into. We write about it quite a bit, but I would say focus on your spending, get at least 2% cash back, and then start to dip your toes into welcome offers, and then you'll be on your way.
You'll be on your way. That's great. And definitely, I highly recommend that you follow points and miles experts like these two gentlemen. Shawn, I think people want to know, what's the best credit card for saving for Disney? Obviously, this is something that you know well. What are your thoughts? What is your favorite credit card to use Disney? Mark just said Disney credit card is kaput.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong in that it's not just Disney, actually. It's a lot of the co-branded credit cards from your favorite cruise line or airline. A lot of the times they're not giving you the best return compared to other cards. And what Mark said, like a double cash card, which is going to give you 2% back everywhere that you can then use. That's a good card. And that card has the ability it also earns kind of thank you points, which you can then if you want to get more advanced, there's ways that you can benefit on Disney or other travel. And I think a lot of cards that are popular are cards like double cash, where you're just earning cash back, or cards like Venture Card, where you are, essentially erasing. We call them travel eraser cards. You get $1,000 towards travel. You go charge the travel on the card, and then you can get a statement credit for it. So cards that are good on the earning side and then allow you to redeem for travel. one of my favorite cards for everyday purchases is my Bank of America Travel Rewards card, because I have Platinum Honor status with Bank of America, and that card earns 2.875% on all my purchases. And so I use that towards travel. So that is my kind of go-to card. But I think anything that's really earning you 2% or above on everyday purchases is where you should probably start. And then, like Mark said, find out where you're spending the money and then get a card that gets you bonus points in those categories. And this year, since the pandemic started, almost every bank has changed their bonus categories and their products. So if you haven't looked in a while, now is a good time to kind of look and see what cards you have, what they're earning. A good example of that is the Thank You Premier card is a card I have, but I didn't use very much anymore. And then they made it earns 3x points at grocery stores. And I do a lot of grocery purchases. And so I use that card now a lot. So the pandemic has kind of changed a lot of these cards. It's changed the way the banks do everything. And so it's good to kind of, audit yourself, make sure that you're using the right cards and that you have the right products all together.
Great.
I will say for Disney tickets, a good one is like if you have the Venture card, normally tickets to like theme parks and stuff doesn't code as travel properly. But if you go through a site like Undercover Tourist, which will sell discounted Disney tickets, that codes for travel. So you just buy it through a third party, and then you can use those points to wipe off the charges. So that's probably the way people get Disney tickets most often for free.
Yeah, Disney tickets for free, hotels, airfare. I mean, it's so much to look forward to, and I'm excited to see us get beyond this pandemic, and then we can get back to talking about booking travel and less about where we're spending our grocery spend for sure. And I know you both feel this way, but before I let you go, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have some fun, and that means we're gonna do a quick speed round. All right, let's start this. I'm gonna hand the first one to Mark. Mark, if you could only keep one credit card in your wallet, what would it be?
I would have to say at this point, the personal Amex Gold card earns 4 times at grocery stores up to $25,000 in spend. It earns 4 times on what's the other on restaurants. Sorry, pause, brain fart there. 4 times on restaurants, 3 times on airlines. It's a $250 annual fee, which is more than a lot of people want to pay, but you get a $100 airline incidental credit. You get $10 a month that you can use at certain restaurants on Grubhub and stuff like that. So you can usually wipe away the fee with those type of perks. But 4 times on groceries is pretty huge. And then a nice way to max that out, or nobody spends $25,000 on groceries in a year, or at least most families don't. But if you buy gift cards at the grocery store, let's say you're going to go to Home Depot and you need something, you go buy a Home Depot gift card. You get 4 times points. If you're in like a Kroger fuel point program, you also earn fuel points, which will get you a discount at the gas station, get $1 off or maybe free gas, depending on where you're at. So there's a lot you can do with that card. So I like that card a lot. It comes with travel protections too for flights. So it's kind of like everything you want in one card.
That's pretty cool, because that's like 25,000 times, 4 times points. That's 100,000 points per year. So for a family of 4, that gets you round trip ticket. That's a nice little vacation. Great tip, Mark. All right, Shawn, you can only have one credit card in your wallet. I know this is hard for you, my friend.
This is very hard. Oh God. I think Mark nailed it with the gold card. Obviously,
Really?
I think that it has the right categories. But I'll focus on the business side, because I think my businesses are where I earn so many of my miles and points. And I'm very focused on the credit card strategy for my businesses. And for that, I would say my overall favorite card and the ones that I would want to have are like Chase Ink cards. And I think people out there, and I'll say Chase Ink Cash, which is a 0% annual or no annual fee card. But I use that so much for office supply and for my businesses, and I earn so many points with that. And then, like Mark said, I can also buy gift cards at the office supply stores to shift that spend elsewhere. But for me, Ultimate Rewards are the most valuable, and I use those. So I would say that is the card, and those chasing cards. The only kind of downside, if I only had one, is the Ink Cash isn't a premium card, so it doesn't let me transfer my points. But maybe I would go with one of the other cards there. But I think that would be my answer. I love my Ink cards, and I use them so much, and that's really how I earn so many points. So that's going to be my answer for that. The gold card's amazing. So Mark got that. He he got to go first. So
yes, I win round one. I win round one.
He definitely wins.
Well, you know what? We got to play fair. So we'll send you, Shawn, the next question. Next speed round question, Shawn, favorite dessert. Go.
Yes, I'm going to fail at this one too. I'm terrible at these. Favorite dessert would have to be a great traditional strawberry New York cheesecake, like in New York. Like yeah, exactly that. And that's my favorite. I'm not a huge sweets person, but that's something I could eat every single time. And every time I go there, they give you these giant slices and I end up eating like the whole thing. So I guess that's my favorite dessert. Good old strawberry cheesecake.
Woohoo, go strawberry cheesecake. All right, Mark, what do you got? I feel like this is...
I'm going to win. I got this because I know Winnie likes ice cream, so she's going to pick me. But I would have to go with, it's kind of like, I think it's like a Detroit specialty or a Michigan specialty. I don't think it's as big anywhere else, but it's called like the Saunders Hot Fudge Cream Puff. And it's basically like a donut-y type of pastry, and they scoop vanilla ice cream in the middle, and then they put hot fudge on top of it. So you get like a donut flavor mixed in with vanilla ice cream and then hot fudge. It's amazing.
Okay, once again, please FedEx me one. I'll take one of both of them. I'll take the two too. All right. If you're watching Junior's Cheesecake, you need to send us cheesecakes. All
yes.
All right. You know what, Shawn, I'm gonna give you one more shot because I'm feeling the energy right now. Last question. Favorite vacation. Go, Shawn.
Honestly, my favorite, I travel a lot for work, so I'm not counting that. My favorite vacation is Hawaii. And not just because I know that you love that, but for the last, 6 or 7 years, we do Hawaii 2 or 3 times a year. Being on the West Coast, it's just easy to get there. But I love the spirit. I love the pace there. Of course, I love the resorts and the ocean and all of that. But I love the culture, the Polynesian culture, and just the feeling that I get when I get off a plane in Hawaii is unlike anywhere else. And so for vacation, that's where I love to go.
I know. And I know I'm sure you've been this because you have kids, young ones like I do. The Hyatt Maui with the penguins. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Amazing. Right. And that lounge, when there was a lounge. Wow. That was incredible. All right, Mr. Mark, what do we got? Favorite vacation?
I think Shawn's going to beat me on this one, but no, I would have to say it's kind of boring, but my favorite vacations or our favorite vacations have been just going to Northern Michigan, which is something I did as a kid. We go back to a town that I vacationed in, and there's something special about sharing, childhood memories with your children and seeing their faces light up when you do it. So, we go on the east side of the coast, the water. I took a picture of my son last year when we were there in the summer, and the water looks kind of like you're in the Bahamas. You couldn't tell any difference. He's walking into the water on the beach, and it's blue. It's beautiful. There's no sharks, no salt water, so that's good. Fresh coast living. But the coolest vacation ever would probably be my Arby's trip last year. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, talk about your Arby's trip. That was really cool, actually. I was very, very jealous about this. Again, that was before we were friends. Otherwise, I'd be like, "Where's my text?"
Yeah, so Arby's, I think a lot of people saw this, but maybe not everybody. They were doing a giveaway like a year ago that 10 people would go to Hawaii, and it would cost $6, and it was for their launch of their Arby's Hawaiian sandwich. So we wrote about it on the site, and we all tried it just for fun, and I'm just, okay, let's try it. Didn't get anything the first day, and then because they broke it out, like 5 people won the first time, and then 5 people won the next day. And the next day I click it, and it says, okay, you get through, and I'm putting my credit card thinking like, oh, there's no way this is going to ever work. And it's like, congratulations, you won a trip to Hawaii. And I'm like, when is this? I don't even know when the trip is. So I had to quickly check out and see like, oh, it's 2 weeks from now. I better call my wife. And I'm like, hey, by the way, in 2 weeks, I got to fly to Hawaii. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I won this trip with Arby's. She says, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. She was like, do I get to go? And I said, no, it's only for one person. And she was not happy about that. But they flew us into LA. We spent the night in LA. We went to a Dodgers game, and we were in the King Hawaiian Suite, which was amazing. And then the next morning we flew lie flat business class to Hawaii, spent 6 hours on the beach, and then flew the whole way home to Michigan. So it was a whirlwind type of trip. I don't know how I made it through, but it was crazy. So that's like the first story I tell everybody when I meet them.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. So, Shawn, we have established that your best vacation is with your family. Mark's best vacation is by himself. With Arby's. So definitely Shawn won. Well, thank you so much. Let's take a moment real quick because we want to make sure everyone's very much aware. How do we follow you? Where can we learn more? Obviously, I will say that you definitely want to subscribe to Miles to Memories. It's something that you're going to want in your inbox. That's one email you're going to want to basically check that favorite so you make sure that you see it because every day they're sharing something of value. Shawn, you want to start with that? Maybe share with us the best way to keep in touch.
Definitely. You can email me anytime, Shawn@milestomemories.com. And then, of course, the Miles to Memories social media. And then our Vegas YouTube channel has been blowing up. So if you're interested in what's going on in Vegas, youtube.com/Miles to Memories.
Wonderful. And so you can see the website. And Mr. Mark, I know you're really shy, but where can people follow you?
I'm on Twitter at Detroit Mark. You can email me, Mark@Miles2Memories. If you comment on any of the articles on the website, I'll respond to you there. And then we have a, like 11, 12,000 person Facebook group where you can ask questions and everybody kind of chips in and helps out. So that's a great place. We're in there all the time, every day. So lots of ways to get a hold of us.
Lots of ways. Yes. Shawn?
I wanted to say hi to Mark's mom and just tell her thanks for watching and appreciate the support because I love that she.
Hi, Mrs. O. You gotta say hi, Mrs. O. That's
hi,
what
Mrs.
all my
O.
friends called her.
Hello,
Mrs. O.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm actually really surprised that Mark said Twitter because I know Mark to be the Facebook king, but he said Twitter. So so those of you,
You've corrupted me.
Give Mark a follow on Twitter. Let's up his following there. And let's give Mrs. O a big hug. There she is. How cute.
Hi, Mom.
There. You know how they say like the only person that watches you is your parents? Well, look at that, Mark, getting the love everywhere you go. I'm loving this. All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Robin, Abby, Jim, Rick, Brian, all of you for tuning in. We're seeing all of you come in and out. We appreciate you so much. We hope this created value for you. And as always, this is sort of the spice to life. It gives us balance. It gives us something to look forward to because at some point the pandemic will be something that's in our history and not something we're looking right into the eye of. So these are ways to be able to keep focus on what's important, which is miles of memories, making those memories, saving now for your points and miles so that in the future you can make those new memories for your loved ones. As Shawn had mentioned not too long ago, Vegas was already coming back. Looks like Mark's going there too. Maybe you'll be going. I don't even know. But wherever you are, I hope that you are safe. I hope you are well. And I'm truly grateful that you've joined us today. Do me a favor and follow us on YouTube, Winnie Sun TV, and everywhere else that you're at, and share this stream with a friend because sharing is caring. And most importantly, it could help you with your next vacation. Thank you so much for tuning in. A huge thank you to Mark and Shawn and Mark and Shawn, the Top Gun team at Miles to Memories. My dear friends, thank you so much for all that you do for my family. We truly appreciate it. And thank you for making the time today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.